Hey there, listeners. How's your week coming along? We are incredibly excited to have we have two guests for you today. The first one is in fact with us already. We're going to introduce him in just a second. That's Udayan of GrowthX. He's the founder of GrowthX. He also used to be our first guest. He used to be a Razor. That's someone who works at Razorpay. And our second guest, who's in fact a returning TON guest, he used to be a Stripe. So
Yeah.
it's today we're going to talk about all things AI and also fintech, and we also say hi to itself.
What's happening? Agents also, dude. Like, there's so much. I mean, Anthropic and Notion keep on announcing. Anthropic specifically, which affects all the price movements in the world. We'll cover that after we've spent time with our guest today. Let's welcome our first one for the show. Udayan, welcome to the show.
I think in a year's time, I am hoping my agent also joins the show along with me. So, yeah, that's the plan.
And they'll be chatting with our agents. But
Yeah,
firstly,
they'll be chatting.
let's introduce GrowthX for our listeners. Can you spend 30 minutes talking about GrowthX?
So in the simplest terms, we exist to help professionals grow in their careers. We started in 2019 as a community, and in 2021 we moved towards a lot more learning because that was the core demand for professionals to really like grow in their careers. We had a lot more time in the pandemic, right? And then once the pandemic got over, again the next thing or the biggest thing that you needed to grow your career was AI. That was giving you leverage, which is where our community is focused today. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. We are basically a invite-only community, meaning you need to apply. We will look at your personal, professional, even criminal records before we accept you, and then you pay for a membership. And yeah, you treat us like a gym membership. The way you look at a gym membership to stay fit, we are GrowthX for that, for like professionals, right? Yeah, that's a little bit of us.
And you're doing India's first OpenClaw Buildathon. Anyone who's, I mean, living under a rock or not spending time in a Twitter bubble, what is OpenClaw firstly? What's the 30-second pitch to them?
Got it. So think about it this way. I'm sure a lot of y'all use ChatGPT, Claude, etc., etc. And today the what you're talking to is also actually, in fact, an agent. Most people think that when they're using ChatGPT, they're using a model. No, it's an agent. The model underneath is 5.2, 5.3, whatever. And when you ask a question, that agent determines if it wants to do a web search for your question or not, right? With OpenClaw, what's happened, it's an open source platform to build your own agents. And the best way to think about an agent is something that doesn't just give you an answer like ChatGPT does, but also does the action for you. For example, you ask, hey, how's my calendar looking? And maybe ChatGPT gives you answers on this is how it's looking. The OpenClaw agent will not just move your calendar around, but it'll also email the people with preset agendas, do research on them, and a lot more. So yeah, that's the best way to think about it. Information versus action.
In other words, such an agent works backwards from the goal. But tell us, Diane, did the idea for this buildathon come from within the community? Were people already building projects that were doing well, and how did it come into being?
Yeah, it did. I mean, see, every single week, not even week actually, OpenClaw was like bursting inside the community where we were getting one project submitted inside the community every single day. And the coolest project was this one where, you know how Zomato has now allowed an MCP server where, you can order via agents. So this person always would go into a big conundrum on what they should be ordering. And they used OpenClaw to just automate that, get them healthy food delivered to their office space without them thinking about it. And that was like a use case. It was not even a business use case. It was just a very curious use case that went really viral in the community. So people were building OpenClaw projects already. So we thought, hey, why not do a big buildathon? We wanted to do it one city, and then it turned out to be doing 5 cities. And then it turns out there's never been an OpenClaw buildathon. So we were not planning for a first time, India buildathon, but it just happened.
And just a curious question, is Buildathon different from a hackathon?
I think it's just a cooler name. I think, if I'm being honest with you, I think Buildathon and Hackathon, I am not so sure why the name Buildathon even stuck in the community. Probably because it gives you a feeling that you're building something that you can use on a day-to-day basis, and Hackathon probably is just you're hacking a solution that may or may not be used in the future. I don't know. That's actually something that we should all think about.
What are the other cool projects that people have built? I believe the revenue that they've made is 15,000 and 37,000 in a couple of days, right?
Yeah,
From these
yeah,
projects.
yeah.
So you mentioned
Yeah,
one example. Any other cool examples?
I see, in general, in GrowthX, one of the, like, I'll just give you a quick ICP profile. GrowthX members are typically between 7 to 15 years of experience. Okay. One of the criteria for you to come inside GrowthX also is a little bit about your work. While we don't necessarily, say no to someone with 3 or 4, we look at other parameters, but work experience is a pretty chunky amount. And it doesn't matter if you're an engineer, a product person, marketer, doesn't matter. So at this stage of your career, generally you're trying to build things that drive revenue impact, because that's how you're typically growing, right? You can't do a fun college project. In general, any AI project that comes inside GrowthX is already trying to do its own revenue. I'll give 𝐁𝐸∤ a shout out, who's built Reply Daddy, and he's generating, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in MRR with his
Reply
project.
Daddy. What does
Yeah,
that do?
Reply Daddy. It's a reply tool for Reddit. So you can monitor mentions and reply automatically for brands, right? And this guy is not a dev. He's a product person, ex-Dukan. And then I'll talk about OpenClaw. We were doing AI festival, India's biggest AI festival in Jan in Goa. And Bhanu, it was building his OpenClaw project called Mission Control HQ, which is basically a team of agents, not just one agent, that do multiple things to automate marketing. Bhanu is a core dev. He hates marketing. He's like, you know what, I want to outsource this. So he built an agent team that started doing it. That went viral. He was coding on his phone, man. He was building Mission Control HQ in Goa on his phone.
Yeah.
I think he got $15,000 of revenue in 3 days. So yeah, generally any project that most people will do inside GrowthX is typically trying to solve for a business problem, a revenue thing. But yeah.
This was that moment when people were just interacting with Telegram. No one was even opening the development environment and just
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, he was literally at the festival and he was showing us like he's building it on his phone
do
and he's generating revenue.
Yuri, do you think ever since OpenClaw came about, like people whose GitHub repos to be somewhat green are now like dark green?
Mine too, man. Mine too. I haven't
Yeah.
coded since 12 years, and I'm telling you, it's such a amazing rabbit hole that you can't stop once you start. So yeah, I agree. I think all of these platforms, like agents, have always existed before, obviously. OpenClaw just reduces the friction by doing a lot of the hard work for you with integrations, etc. Right? Yeah, I do believe a lot of
Yes,
these are going to come. Yeah.
you guys are called GrowthX, and I believe you originally started by being, the place of choice for people who used to work in growth functions. How is that changing in the face of everything that's happening around us? How's AI
Excellent
changing
question.
growth?
I think the growth lead role is going to be AI native more than any role in the world, right? If you think about it, we have growth leads from Lovable, Levin Labs, Sarvam, and
Wow.
all of these people are very AI native. They're already GrowthX members, right? The main shift that we saw in the beginning is that most of the professionals that came to GrowthX earlier were learning growth. Even if an engineering manager came, they were learning growth to drive more business impact. Now we are seeing devs coming to GrowthX who are again joining GrowthX so that they get the distribution muscle, especially when cost to build is coming down to zero, as well as anyone can go and start building, right? And not just build like a website, like back in, I've lost my hair, so I've been around WordPress days, right? Not just like build a simple website, but a complete business suite of products. So yeah, the shift has happened where people are still focused on distribution, but the way they distribute stuff is a lot more AI first. And I think that's the major change.
And what happens things like safety and cost as well, because many of these tokens or agents running in the background can literally consume, I don't know, millions of tokens, and you just wake up to a bill, of course, unless you put guardrails. And safety also, we've read about OpenClaw that people are running to their bots to unplug them just so that, or the Mac minis to run to them just so because 200 emails are getting deleted by the second. So there are safety concerns, do you think?
Yeah, there are safety concerns. There are proper safety
Apparently
concerns.
somebody from Meta who was a safety person also ran into some issues.
Yeah, I think here's okay, so I'll start off by saying safety concerns are 100% true, right? If you give something very powerful that can do actions for you, And when that goes wrong, it can actually go wrong. The way we think about this at GrowthX and our members think about it is, think about it like intern joining your dev team for the first day. Would you give them root access to the database or everything? No, you wouldn't, right? You'd slowly give them access. The same way, if you're using an agent, try to think of them like a new employee who's joined. You slowly onboard them. You don't just give them the finance books, go talk to your investors on day zero, right? Same way treat the agent as well.
And what about cost and stuff? I believe
Cost?
you have OpenAI as a partner for this buildathon as well.
Yeah. The OpenAI team has been very graceful on like just ensuring that people don't have to worry about costs. Not just costs, but even token limits. When you're setting up OpenClaw, by the way, it will burn through tokens like a hungry person after a very, very long fast. Okay, and I'm not even
This
kidding.
confirms my analogy that you guys are literally hosting an all-you-can-consume token buffet in 5 cities, and then
Yeah, it is an all you can consume, but thanks to OpenAI, we have the credits. Not just that, even Hostinger. So if you set it up on your laptop, right, it can only work if your laptop is on or if your Mac Mini is on, and also you're giving access to your like system. Hosting it on a cloud server is just more safe because you can then pick and choose what you want to give access on that server. So Hostinger is doing like giving us credits for hosting it on a cloud server, and OpenAI for the tokens.
Interesting. And what's the format of this buildathon before we move on to other segments?
So format is very simple. We are picking and choosing folks. So primary audience for this is a little bit more mature. So you have AI researchers who are coming in. You have CTOs that are joining us. CEOs who are coming who want to build on OpenClaw. They come, they will be given a problem statement to choose from, because and a theme of problem statements, right? And these problem statements are given for them so that they spend less time on what should they build rather than the building process itself. Then after that, there's an entire handbook that's given to them on how do they validate the scoping, how should they think about the front end, back end integrations, and they have checkpoints where we have our member hosts who have built OpenClaw projects that come and help them. Like these are people who have not just built on OpenClaw but also generated revenue on OpenClaw, like Bhanu, for example, in Bangalore. And there are multiple checkpoints that will happen, and they will be building in an 8-hour sprint. At the end of the 8 hours, their job to be done is to build something that is either very cool or something that solves for like revenue, right? And then they'll go and demo this.
Super interesting. And what's are people also coming with some predefined problem statements, or is it all on the spot?
I think most of them, 80 to 90%, are coming with an open mind. They are coming with the fact that, hey, I've built a personal agent or I've built something. I want to now dive into a little bit more of a harder problem to solve. Right. So there are some people that have their problem statements and then they can come and do that as well. But we have theme of problem statement, and I mean like we have more than 100 problem statements that they can choose from.
Yeah. Which is super cool. I think we were chatting about this just before you joined us, that we've gone very quickly from conversational interfaces to personalized agents to now these multi-agent systems, and seeing people use those problem statements to bring these projects to life is going to be very, very cool. Where can people find what comes out of this, the output that comes out of it? What's it? So sorry.
That's a great question. This is something that has been pending in us because GrowthX members keep shipping stuff. So there will be a website called as built.growthx.club. Which is basically BUILT. So anything that gets built by members of GrowthX, that will be showcased there. Think of it like Product Hunt, but for GrowthX.
That's solid. Let's talk about GrowthX a little bit, because I'm also in the community building business. We're doing offline, as you might have. I think we've probably exchanged a few emails as well at some point. So you have 5,000 members, and I'm guessing like you realize that quality of people is the product itself. So what does that process look like? Like, I mean, I'm looking to learn from you in terms of how do you ensure that people meet a certain bar? Have you churned some members or GrowthX people who have not been good fit for the community as well? Like, just your thinking and philosophy around community.
I think you're hitting spot on. Like, I think there are only 2 jobs to be done in a community: curation and moderation. Right? You curate at a very high bar and you moderate at a very high bar. When you do those two things, the right behaviors are incentivized. So for curation, what we are trying to emulate is basically we are trying to find the most ambitious bunch and the most curious people. And when I say curious, I don't mean like I'm curious. Half of Bangalore is freaking curious, right? I mean like if you say you're curious, have you it's not that you're curious about an idea, but did you go and like try to build something in it? Did you try to implement something? Did you try to find the truth in that answer, right? Of whatever you're seeking. And ambition is basically something that comes from understanding how they behave. We'll have the chief marketing officer of a Netflix join GrowthX, and their mindset around they don't want to continue learning, or they want to just share. That just shows if they're ambitious or not. Truly ambitious people never ever want to stop learning. Instead, I'll tell you a very interesting insight. We had a CXO circle inside GrowthX, right? People who have 15, 20 years of experience. That soon faded. They're like, we don't want to meet other CXOs, bhai. I want to meet the Zepto PM with 9 years experience who's killing it. I want to understand and learn from them, right? Ambition. So curation is primarily on ambition and curiosity. And obviously the third parameter is empathy. The way we do this today, back in the day, we used to do interviews. So every single person that came to GrowthX, Abhishek, that's my co-founder, and I have interviewed the first 3,000 members, if I'm not wrong, okay, individually. After that, then we had some data points to automate the interview process, and then we had some interviews. Today, we have an AI model which is basically creates a lookalike audience, which is basically that we know 83 data points about our best members. Whenever that matches to about 99%, our AI agent will approve you. Then there's a human in the loop to just check, verify, do a quick call, and then approve. So that's what exists today. But yeah, I hope that answers the question on curation.
I have so many, follow-up questions as well, but I'll let Dhruv chime in first. I think he's...
No, go for it, sir.
Yeah, let's talk about monetization a bit. Like I named the community offline because I think we realized that in-person events are necessary and smaller curated ones. I think the problem with these mass scale VC mixers is that I think it lacks curation process or anything more meaningful.
I like how Utsav is being so kind. Just say networking events suck, man. Like they suck.
They truly suck. I think anyone, who we're accepting is probably well networked enough or not looking for networking as their prime aim. Like for offline, I think the core thing that we look for is that does this person need a true CEO support group? Like if they're building a high growth company, they're the top 10% founders. So that's the ICP that we've identified. Much smaller subset. That's what many people have said. So we're thinking about different monetization ways as well. How do you think about monetization? Do you charge for events? Do you you allowed members to host events as well, and that's why you do a lot of events as well. Monetization in a community.
So I'll take two things. One is 100%. After certain years of experience, you do not want to go to a 200 people mixer. You might want to do it once a year, maybe, and then you're like done, right? You get reminded why you didn't want to go to them. Most events of GrowthX are 15 to 20 people. Right, which is why the buildathons also, the cap is at 25 people, by the way, right? Most buildathons are like hundreds of people, 500 people buildathon. That's what they rave about. We will do more buildathons, but we will always keep it small and curated because that's where the value add happens. Number two is on monetization. So our number one monetization is subscription fee. We charge a subscription fee to you. That is our 99% of revenue. And then the events are ticketed for intent and just to ensure that the event is at a net positive, right? We don't like to take sponsors, etc. a lot unless it's like an OpenAI credits, etc., which is very native to it because I don't want the event to be a sales event. So let's say there'll be a token charge of 199, 299 or something like that. These are just to ensure that intent is there and the cost of the person who's hosting it is reduced. And then comes to hosting. I don't know a single community except for maybe BNI that does events at our scale, but with 5,500 members, we do 50 events every month. We do 10 to 12 events every month, and my community team is a community team of 3 people. Right? Wow. All of this happens on our platform. Members go, they click on host, AI helps them write the description, AI vets the place, we have selected vendors where they can do it, and then they go live, and then they start getting registrations from members.
When so many events are happening and you can't be in all places all at once, how do you ensure that they meet your bar?
There are a lot of checks that we do. So let's say, for example, if a host is hosting an event, by the type of the event name, by the description of it, by the type of the host profile, because we have a lot of data on our members, right? We can tell if this will be a good event or not. If we feel like this is in the gray, our team will then go and reach out, understand, help, nurture, and train the host to really make a really good event, right? And then there's a host playbook, which means that no matter which event in GrowthX you go to across the 500 events that are happening in a year, there will always be a set standard of how the format works, with how introductions are done, how closings are done, how members are treated. There is a certain format and training that we have incorporated.
Solid. And I mean, you've achieved all of this with such a small team of the community team, at least. And I think you're bringing your Razorpay growth experience by being the first hire there into this picture as well. So you're building it with that POV as well. And interesting. What does like GrowthX, I mean, look like at 20,000 members? What things do you think will break? What things will succeed?
I think one of the things that that question was really bothering us, me and Abhishek, is that how do we ensure engagement, outcomes, and quality at scale? For a community, that's the hardest thing to do. And if I went back to the drawing board to try to understand which are the most successful communities in the world, right? If you think about it, the oldest and one of the most successful communities is three. One is political parties. They're all communities, by the way. They run on a social hierarchy structure and all volunteer run. Religions. All religions are fundamentally communities that are aligned to solve for the problem of what do I do in life, right? What's the meaning of life, right? Then sports. Very recently, in the last 400, 500 years, sports communities. If you think about what is common in them is if you have the right goal, if you have the right structure of incentives, then as the community size increases, there should be more value add. Which is why at 20,000, what I expect GrowthX to be, it'll be like a very standardized way of people thinking of, hey, this is like a membership I take, just like I want to be fit with a gym, I will take a GrowthX membership for my career. And I still expect at 20,000 members, we'll probably still be 70% in India and 30% outside of India.
Awesome. That's it from my side. Dhruv, any final closing question or?
We can actually let Yuri go, but maybe I wasn't, I wanted you to talk more about the last thing that you said, right? It was so interesting that the largest communities in the world. But do you think maybe some of the examples that you took, people also have like a common identity there or shared traditions or I mean, maybe two out of the three do, but when you're building, and they also go long back in time, right?
Yes.
I mean, the two of you over here are building relatively new communities. So how do you contend with that? How do you create, cult-like appeal? There's this very controversial book called True Believer by Eric Hoff. I don't know if you've read it. It's about the nature of mass movements.
Shared trauma or shared wins. I think
yes,
in a community truly accelerates that process.
Shared trauma and shared wins. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
I think that is the most wonderful note to end this on. But thank you so much for coming and sharing what's happening. All the best for the all-you-can-consume token buffet happening across cities.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. And Yuri, let's catch up as well. And thank you again.
Let's catch up offline. Yeah.
Cheers. Let's catch up offline.
Awesome.
I love it.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
All right, listeners. Now we'll welcome our next and the final guest for today. He's announcing his new round, and we'll try to break down the headlines with him. So, Ashwin, welcome back to the show.
Welcome back, Ashwin, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you, 𝐂𝐨 and Dhruv. I feel like a celebrity, man. I'm being invited back for the second time, which means that I must have done something right the first time.
Honestly, I think you must have gotten that validation from General Catalyst and not us. But it's nice that you think so highly of us as well.
I'm going to have my moment in the sun, 𝐂𝐨. So that's what I'm going to go for.
So I'm going to read out some headline numbers. So 16.6 million raised. General Catalyst, Alex Tran led the round. You have 10x revenue growth in FY26, 15,000 businesses. Transaction size ranges from $3,000 for freelancers to a couple of million for the GCCs. So, and you have a new license as well. How does it all feel, this all progress that you've made so far?
Human
to human question.
No, I feel like right, like all of it seems to be coming together magically. But I'm sure like all founders and like a lot of listeners in your show will appreciate that it's been sort of like years and years and years in the making. So like we're a reasonably boring company, right? Like I don't think people wake up in the morning and they're like, man, I'm going to build payments infrastructure today, right? So I feel like most payments infrastructure is just like, waking up every day and just like keeping at it. And then, it suddenly sort of like comes together and it looks kind of fortuitous, but it's really just like the team just working away day and night.
And Stripe and PayPal both on your cap table now.
Yeah, that was a good one actually. I think like Stripe and PayPal, as has been explained to us multiple times by both of them, don't typically invest in the same early stage company. I mean, to us, it just signals that we're positioned, at that infrastructure layer. So we're not competing with them, but we're enabling flows that kind of expand the ecosystem. And so it's a good validation, right? Utsav, right? Like that we're solving a real structural, sort of like pain point in cross border. Our compliance posture is credible, our positioning is neutral, right? So I think the doors it opens are less about branding and more about sort of like the ecosystem alignment. But yeah, it definitely it's definitely amazing to have like both of them on your cap table.
Maybe Ashwin can comment on this, but had you opened the round maybe a couple of months later, rumor has it that you would have gotten one, like these two checks rolled into one. But also tell
I
us
also
about the light.
agree on X is
Yeah,
that, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
PayPal's up for,
The irony,
Who
folks, is
knows?
not lost on me.
Yeah. Yes. No, we introduced today's show by saying we're going to first have a Razor and then X Razor and then an X Stripe come on board. But also tell us about the license. In fact, first tell us what the full form is. How did you manage to get one, and how's life before and after?
Yeah, no, it's a super fair question. What the regulator in India, the Reserve Bank of India, has is they've taken a stance where they want to closely monitor and license entities that move money on behalf of other entities, right? And so the regulator has a framework called the Payment Aggregator License, and the Payment Aggregator License then divides out into different categories. One of these categories is the Payment Aggregator Cross-Border License. And as the name suggests, it's meant for entities that are focused on moving funds into and out of India, which is really sort of like what we do, right? And so we applied for the PA license actually came out. The cross-border piece specifically came out, I think, in October 2023, right? And then then we applied, and we've essentially been through like a pretty rigorous process. I think the regulators right as well, right, to essentially reduce systemic risk in the system. They want trusted players to be able to move money, and so it's been a pretty educational journey, right? So yeah, we're excited about getting the license.
Can I ask you if these maybe I'll just finish this quickly. So can I ask you if these two things were running in parallel, the fundraise and then the license, like the application process?
Yeah.
And where I want to get with this, I'm sorry, is for you to tell us and our listeners how co-founders typically split responsibilities during these phases.
Yeah. No, it's a super fair question. I think in our case, right, the license process actually began about 2 years ago, right? And so the way the licensing process works is you have to formally apply to the regulator. The regulator that vets your licensing application. That's kind of like the first step. And once that first step is done, you get what is called an in-principle approval from the regulator, which basically means that your licensing application is cogent, right? You seem to be saying all of the right things. And then in the second step, there is an audit that is actually done that actually ensures that, in fact, you are ready from a systems perspective to receive the license. So it's a two-step process. It takes a reasonably sort of like long period of time, right? Because I mean, it's 2 years. The fundraise process actually began, I would say, in the last quarter of last year. That's actually like when it began. And like in our case, because we've been sort of like around for a little bit, we had a pretty extensive due diligence that obviously had to take place, which is correct, right? Like I may say, hey, I do this, but then sort of like I need to be due diligence to prove that in fact do I actually do this. So it's taken us a little bit of time over here. So I think like both of these things ran in parallel for some periods of time. It just looks as if they came together at the same time, and that was just fortuitous. In terms of just like division of labor, I think Dhruv hits a really good point. I think like as like between the co-founders and sort of like the folks that are intimately involved, right? There is absolutely division of labor, right? Like so, I can tell you, for example, right, like our secret weapon from a licensing perspective is our legal team, right? And they are just top class, right? And so we're very blessed. We're very blessed that way. So yeah, I hope that answers.
It
Let's
does.
talk
We're very proud of the one we have at AngelList India as well, and it's a will agree. Yes.
Amazing.
Let's talk about flavor of the season might be the flavor of the decade as well. AI. You have an FX tool that allows people to get the best rates over a 3-day period. And that I think has approximately a 90% accuracy. So people can actually get like 8-10 paisa better rates by being a customer of yours. What goes on behind the scenes, and how can you predict with so much accuracy? Is it just historical data, or is there something else at play as well that goes into building this tool?
Yeah, okay. So maybe like let me just try to model out, right, like what we've built, okay? So the behavior that we noticed, right, like in the market was businesses in India are reasonably resourceful in terms of negotiating with their banking partners in terms of what the cost for conversion of money should be, which is just the FX markup. Right. So everybody sort of like says, hey, listen, I'm going to, I do so much of business with you, banking partner, and you're going to charge me 10 paise, right? Or 15 bips, right? Like over mid-market, right? Like a lot of people do this. But what a lot of people don't actually reason about is when to convert the funds. Right. And so imagine for a second, right, that, okay, so it's Wednesday today. So yesterday, for example, the market moved by about 60 basis points, right, between the high and the low. Cool. So you've negotiated 10 basis points or 15 basis points with your bank. And if the bank is converting funds for you at the lower end of the spectrum, you're still losing a ton of money. Right. And so what we basically did was we solved the problem in two parts, right? And so the first part is really just predicting what we think the high is going to be over a certain point in time. Now, remember, anyone can predict a high. You have to be able to then kind of show the user, what this looks like from a backtesting perspective. And then the second thing you need to be able to show is you need to be able to give a range, and that range has to be tight. Just as an example, if I say, hey, listen, I predict that the range will be between 90 and 95, rupees per dollar. Yeah, that's useless, right? What's a lot more useful is if you say between 92.5 and 92.7 for the next 3 days, right? Like that's the high you're going to hit. Now it becomes a lot more useful. And then what the user does next is the user says, okay, I trust this analysis. I want my funds to be converted at this rate. So the user gets to select the rate. And then what Xflow is doing on a sub-second basis is searching for that rate. And the second Xflow finds it, it converts the funds. And we have backstops as well. So for example, the user can say, listen, if you don't find this rate by this day, just convert the funds. Or if the rate falls below a certain rate, don't do anything. Right. So what we've essentially done is we've taken inspiration from the stock market where, people can put like limit orders in place in terms to decide like what happens. Now, in terms of building what we built and the accuracy, the honest answer over here is it just takes time to kind of like fine tune the model that you've built, right? To make sure that it can actually predict sort of like the highs that it does. And even then,
Ashwin, can you contextualize for us that if done right and if done wrong, how much money can you save in the process and how much money can you lose?
Yeah, no, that's a great.
Maybe with a real world example.
Yeah, that's a great question. So let's take a real world example, right? Let's imagine for a second that you're moving $1 million, right, to fund your operations in India. Okay, and let's imagine that you have now negotiated, for those $1 million, a 10 basis point rate. Okay, and let's imagine for a second that the market itself, right, has actually moved by 50 basis points in a day,
Is
which
is that what, by the way, they call a spot rate? What's spot rate?
yeah, a spot rate basically is, imagine for a second that, I give you the rate in which your funds are going to be converted and delivered tomorrow. That's what a
Mhm.
spot rate is. I'm just allowing you to lock the rate, and
Nice.
your funds essentially get delivered to you tomorrow. And so, yeah, most of the market actually moves on a spot rate basis.
So it's that point of time, I think, thing when you check on xe.com, like when you get a call from a banker that, hey, what price do I convert it at? Like then you compare, like, what's the difference from the xe.com price, which is almost always very different. Ashwin, we have to get some content for our social media as well. So let's zoom out a little bit. This world of I think what's really happening with Anthropic announcing all of these tools and products and services which are crashing these IT stocks. But I think the broader discussion point here is that uh, people are worried that the Indian IT exports, which is a major employer in this country, but also exporter of services and importer of foreign exchange into the country. So, if we're losing out on the potential in the future where exports will go down of our IT services, USD INR is going to take a hit. Do you think it will move upward, downwards? What's your perspective on this?
Yeah, the USD INR pair, I think what we found, right, and this, by
Will
the way,
AI impact the USD INR pair? I think that's the simpler question there.
in the short term, yes, I think it will impact the USD INR pair, just because I think the way services are so deeply weighted in terms of the money movement into the country. But I think over the medium to longer term, I think services businesses will adjust. I think like people forget the fact that services businesses have been around now for multiple decades. They also see sort of like what's going on. I mean, just like the other day, right? Like one of the big four reported, that from a pure services perspective, right? They're generating over $3 billion a quarter, just like in pure revenue. So it's not like they are just standing still, right? Like what's up? That's at least like my take. I think like we'll be fine for now. I think YC actually put up this really nice note in terms of how they see agencies to be this really big business going forward. And to be very honest, I mean, the original agencies are the consulting companies out there already. I mean, this is their bread and butter. They already have the relationships, right? And to be honest, what I've always found is, sort of like bigger the company, it's less about the technology and more about the trust that you have on the other side, right? And these services businesses have built up an enormous amount of trust over a very large period of time. So technology has its place, and I completely, sort of like agree with that. But trust has its place as well, especially in an enterprise business.
So you mentioned short term, it might still uh, play out negatively for us, but in the longer run, you're hopeful that this will be more resilient industry.
I think so. I think like I'm sure everyone's kind of like seen the Citrini research by now. I thought it was very interesting, but I don't know. I feel like creating anything in the real world is like 100x harder than, sort of like just like in the software world. I mean, you guys run a show, right? I mean, I'm sure that there are like 100 things that go wrong, right? Like every day, and you guys have like an incredible team that just fixes it on the
You have
fly. I
honestly no
remember
idea.
watching a bunch of these shows, by the way, folks, right in the beginning when you launched, and just the upward trajectory that y'all have had, right? Like from a quality perspective and so on. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like the first time, it was hard to hear what was going on, right? And look where you
Thank you,
guys
sir,
are
for
today,
acknowledging
right?
that.
So yeah, I don't think like AI is going to solve those sorts of things anytime soon. Maybe let me put it this way. Maybe this is just me being hopeful, but I think like AI, at least in the real world, sounds like a little bit more like a pota project, right? Like my pota will be the one that will have to deal with these sorts of things, but I think I'll be okay for now.
Oh man, Dhruv, over to you, man. I want to like process all of this.
Well, we'll let you do that. Maybe we'll just bring attention back to Xflow. So,
Yeah.
what's the newest part of the business, Ashwin? Is it the imports business?
Yeah. Hey, Dhruv, we're very excited about building the import side of the business, and I'll tell you why, right? Just, for your listeners, I want to describe for them what does the imports business look like. Okay, so if you're an Indian business and you've ever tried paying for OpenAI, Anthropic, GitHub, Datadog, New Relic, right? How do you pay these things?
I don't even know how many things we're paying for at this point, but we add a new subscription every few
Yeah,
days.
let me just put it this way. Whatever you're paying for, it's the right thing because you guys are doing a bang up job, right? So keep doing what you're doing. So for me, right, like anytime you try to pay for these things, you're essentially paying with a card. And with your Indian card, right, you'll find that there are like a bunch of failures, especially when there are recurring transactions involved, right? And the way to solve this, right, is one way to solve this rather, right, is for an Indian business to be able to pay OpenAI using their local Indian card or UPI, right? And so the way this works is OpenAI, Anthropic, all of these wonderful businesses are serviced by companies like, say, Stripe or Adyen or Checkout, right? And what ultimately the imports product is going to enable over here is Stripe, Adyen, Checkout, and basically all these wonderful overseas payment processors will be able to light up local Indian payment methods within their own checkout. So the experience is going to be magical because as an Indian consumer or an Indian business, you get to pay with your local payment method. Stripe, right, is basically just gets all of these wonderful things courtesy Xflow, right? And everyone just kind of like benefits in the ecosystem. So to put it even more simply, the imports law will allow overseas businesses to be able to collect from India using local payment methods, right? And I think that will be sort of like the unlock, right? The unlock is going to be that the success rates over here will go as high as like sub 90% from today, which is maybe like mid 50s or mid 60%.
Should we end by discussing the Stripe annual letter? Did you get a chance to read the 2025 one that came out yesterday?
Yeah, I think, look, folks, I'm an ex-Stripe. I was there at Stripe for 5 years. I'm an absolute Stripe fanboy. I think very highly of the company. I think I was very privileged, right? Like that I got to spend time in that company. And I'm a religious reader of the annual letter that John Collison sent out. And I think like it's absolutely stunning, right? Like, look, like Stripe processes like 1.6% of the world's GDP.
That is
That's
just insane.
nuts, right?
That is
Like, and last year it grew like by 35%. I mean, at that volume to be like, I mean, like those figures are just like astonishing to me, right? So I feel like Stripe is like a machine, right? At this point in time, and just like all credit to like all of those wonderful people at Stripe that are doing just like what they do. It's where I learned my chops, and yeah.
And apparently, all this while, the developer NPS has not lost any. The developer NPS hasn't gone down even by that much
Yeah, I think
in
like,
all of this.
yeah, Dhruv, right. I think like, like the kind of processes that Stripe has put in place to make sure that, like I'll give you like an example, right? Like, and again, it seems tactical, but it sort of like hopefully it brings it to life. Any changes to the Stripe API when I was there used to run past this thing called the API Council. And one of the primary members of the API Council used to be a part of the customer support team. Okay. And this
Interesting.
person, right? Like, I mean, it's very hard to argue with this type of a person, right? Like, if you try to bring a change and, that person will essentially ground you in customer feedback. And they're like, this is why you can make the change. This is why you can't make the change. So think about that for a minute, right? A customer support engineer is essentially collaborating with some of sort of like the highest levels of product slash engineering managers in order to make a simple change on the Stripe API. Like, what's the name of the parameter? How do you describe that parameter? All of these things, right, like actually go past a human being. Right. So I think it's that level of detail, right, that's led Stripe to like where it is.
this like that lore about leaving an empty chair for the customer around your around your conference table?
No, I 100%. I mean, it was the same thing. It was the same thing at Amazon, which is where I spent a little bit of time, and it's the absolute same thing at Stripe, right? Like, it blew my mind that this customer support engineer just knew the ins and outs, all right, of everything customer related at Stripe, and they could just speak for the customer, and boy, did they speak! I loved it.
And two things that stood out. Like I think they're mentioning agent commerce protocol as well. I don't know if it applies to Xflow. I don't know how agents will do B2B transactions, but maybe that's 6 months out as well. And also stablecoin volumes are going up 400 billion and growing like 60% of B2B. Do you think like stablecoins will come to your infra play as well?
I think stablecoins will come to our infra play, and in fact, we'll have something to say about that next month, right? So
Nice.
that is going to happen. I think the way we think about this, right, Utsav, is we look at stablecoins as essentially a way to accept money, right? It's like another new payment method for us, right? The way we reason about the world is we provide, sort of like the choice of payment methods to our platform partners. They get to decide what they wish to enable or not. It's not really us, right? So we don't play favorites. If our customers say, Ashwin, we want to move money via stablecoins, we will go figure out a way to move money for them via stablecoins, right? So the way I would always like to position ourselves is we build infrastructure, right? So to me, an application layer dictates to the infrastructure provider, I want to do this. I don't get to dictate to the application layer, actually, why don't you do it this way, right? So it's always the other way around.
All right. I think that's it from my side. Dhruv, anything?
I'm also from my side. Ashwin,
All
thank
right,
you so much
Ashwin.
for coming, and congratulations again to you and all of
Congrats
your colleagues. Yes.
Thank you so much. And folks, once again, I love what you guys do. I do not watch every show live, but I do catch it on YouTube, right? So
Thank you.
like really keep it up. I watched the episode like earlier this week with like Karthik from Bloom. I thought that was fantastic. I had a great time. So yeah,
Amazing.
like don't change.
Ashwin, you've just earned yourself TON merch as well. So we'll reach out to you after this episode and get your size, and you'll soon be donning a TON t-shirt and a cap.
I'm going to wear that the next time, by the way.
Boom. Let's make you the first guest to come on TON for the third time.
There we go. All right.
Right.
Thanks, Utsav.
All the very best. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, listeners, that's it. And we've got good positive feedback for the show, and we're shipping out exclusive TON merch, which I think Dhruv and I should wear on our next stream as well, if we are in the mood.
Did you get yours?
On Friday, because Friday is a banger episode, actually. There's like 4 guests coming, special deep tech episodes. So make sure that you tune in live Friday, 4 p.m. See you. Bye-bye.